In today's day and age, we refer to simple and simplicity as not such a great thing, right? Usually it's referred to brute or not sophisticated and so on, and so we dismiss that. But the truth of the matter is, I think it deserves a different look and a different approach, and maybe we could get something from that. Have it in mind that the root of divine beauty starts with simplicity. As the Zohar says, "Or pashut memale et hakol." A simple light fills everything. And we'll see exactly what simple is. The world was created from simplicity. Before creation took place, the Ein Sof, right, which refers to a certain attribute of God, was simple light, unified, without any difference whatsoever, without any private or individual purpose. It was a light that did not light anything. Yes, I know it sounds like a little bit of a Zen concept, but there was light that didn't light anything because it didn't have any subject to set the light on. So therefore, what was that light? That light was the essence of existence, essence of reality. The light was it. When the light wanted to be revealed and show itself as a light, therefore God created what we call tzimtzum, condensed himself. And this is how complexity what came about. In that complexity, we're talking about colors or lights and sounds and different textures, thoughts, desires, and so on and so forth. But these are all these things that we mentioned and everything else. Let's call it this way, not a poetic metaphor, are just waves on the sea of simplicity. And these are different types of expressions of what we call the One. These are not separate entities, they're not separate realities, they are expressions of the One. And a person who listens to those sounds, right, he hears the noise. If a person who listens to the silence that in between them can refer to what we call it, to the simple light. And again, the emphasis is in the in-between. For example, you could change the atmosphere of what you're saying by taking pauses between words, and longer or shorter would change also the content of what you're saying, even though the words are the same words. But the pauses in between are more important, are very important. Now, we need to also understand that simplicity could also operate as a spiritual force. As the Mekubalim refer to simplicity, and it's not simplicity is not stupidity, and it's not unsophisticated. However, simplicity is perfection without any complications. Perfection without any complications. And when those sfirot, right, light in a perfect balance, without excess, without missing anything, they come back to the original shape and form, which is the pshitut ha'or, the simplicity of the light. In other words, the unification of the light. The Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordoverio, writes in Sefer Pardes Rimonim that God itself is the simplicity as simple can get. In other words, there's nothing in it. It's it and nothing else. Not multiplications, not putting things one on top of the other, not doing any kind of unifications, right? Lehavdil, God is one. One. It has to start with one. Unless some other people say it's the Holy Trinity. By us, it's not. God is one, and everything derives from that oneness. From here, you could learn that the more a person gets closer to God, the more simple he becomes. Because you don't need all this who and has around you to define who you are. And that's the concept that we see it when Adam HaRishon, when Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden. They were naked. They didn't need anything on them to define who they are, right? They didn't, they were who they are, that's what it was, and nothing was wrong with, at the time, with being naked. We start to complex things, and then all of a sudden things are not anymore what they are. Things carry certain meanings, and we interpret it this way, and so on and so forth. Things becomes distorted, right? There's so much, as they say, so much trees, you can't see the forest. In the complexity that we create to our life, it's not complexity, it's basically clutterness. And when you create clutter, you can think straight. And clutterness creates disharmony. That's why it's very good to be organized, to be clean, to be neat. We used to say in the army, you think the way you dressed. You dress up messy, you'll think messy. You need to be clear. Everything needs to be exactly as it was. That's the whole idea behind it. And when we said things become more simple, it's not because you know less, but because you need less to become whole. I don't need all these things to make me feel that I'm alive. I need less and less, but more clarity. It's the top of the concept of quality versus quantity. And quality is at the purest form. Chazal tells us, and the Zohar as well, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere, but it dwells in a broken and humble heart. What does it mean, broken heart? It means like if I'm, fell in love with my high school sweetheart and she said no to me, that's a broken heart? No. I'm going to tell you, broken from all the chitzoniyut, from all the husks that cover you, then you could reveal the humbleness, then God dwells into it. In Kabbalah it says, we have the 10 sferot, the 10 different realms, that the 10th sphera, which is Malchut, it says, Ela mi'atzma klum. By itself it has nothing. Because if you see all the sferot, all trickle down, they're all at the end giving down to the sphera of Malchut. Everything is trickled down. By itself it has nothing. And why is that? And because of that, and mainly because of that, it is the Malchut, is the sphera, is the vessel in which the upper light is being revealed. Just because by itself it has nothing, because therefore all the things that you have by yourself are a burden on you. I remember a story when I was learning about the Native American way of life, and so on and so forth. For them, especially to the more nomadic tribes like the Plain Indians, the more you have, the more you had, the more miserable you were. The more important the instrument, the vehicle, or the possession that you had, the more they wanted to get rid of it, because it held them down and it prevents them from having a certain lifestyle of going from one place to another. How many people during the Holocaust did not leave because they had very expensive possessions? How many people in New York, for example, would not leave because they have very expensive possessions? It holds you down. That's a thing. It's a thing. You have something expensive. Yes, it's nice, but it's a thing. For example, if you have, let's say, an expensive watch, a very expensive watch, you're not going to be able to go and do some work in the garden. That prevents you from doing that. And if you don't do some kind of work in the garden, you're losing contact with reality. I mean, it's very good to do some work, to do something. Or you have a tuxedo or something. You're not going to go down and pick up something from the floor because it's going to get dirty. All these expensive things holds you down. Get rid of it. It's a thing. They make you spiritually clumsy. In our houses also, we want more and more. We become hoarders. We just collect things. For what? For one day after you bring your soul back to God, your kids will come and say, oh my goodness, this old man collected all this stuff. Who needs this? It's going to be a burden on your children. They need to get a dumpster and put everything in. Get rid of everything you need. You don't need anything. You first of all need yourself. However, less you have in yourself, the more you need around to support you, because you don't get a sense that you're alive unless you have possessions. Think about that. Whether it's clothing, and this is why our society is a very fragile, destructive society, because it's all about consumerism. We have a consumer society. Our society is all about buying and buying and buying things that I don't need, but buy it. I don't need it. Buy it. It's on sale. I'll buy it. A person who is obsessed with that, who is uncontrolled shopaholic, has a big problem with himself. Is probably empty inside. And usually empty people become very destructive people, both to themselves and to others. So when it by itself doesn't have anything, it becomes a vessel to hold the light, and where the upper light would reveal itself in its wholeness and its most simple form. Wholeness of the light means it's in a simple state. Therefore, chisaron, lacking, right, or simplicity, should I say, simplicity, is not some kind of a downgrading fact, or is not a bad thing. On the contrary, simplicity is the vehicle, is the apparatus, it's the vessel which holds the simple light inside, which is the pure light. It is a vessel. Simplicity is our ability to become empty in order to give, so we could receive, so we could give to others. And this is how we become partners with God in creation. We receive to give. We receive to give. It's like a cup that is no good to it unless it's empty. Just like a person. I told you the story about Ryoken, which was the Japanese master who created the Chan-no-yo, the tea ceremony, and the samurai that came to listen, to learn from him. But he was so full of himself until he was able to empty himself up. He wasn't willing to teach him. He said, empty yourself up, then gotta fill it up. What's a point if I have a cup that is full? I need to use the cup. I need to fill it up with something. If I want to use the cup appropriately with water, I need to empty all the dirt inside of it. That's exactly how we are. As it says in the Zohar, lo nehora ela min chashocha. The light is not being revealed unless there is darkness. Right? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, va'aretz hayta tohu va'ohu, and what? And choshech al pnei tehom. Darkness had to be created in order to have the light revealed. That's the way it works in our world. In other words, there's no glory, no tiferet, unless we are... something you should be proud of yourself is the fact that you dismantle your arrogance. Since we're talking about Chan-no-yo, the tea ceremony, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a concept, which is, I think, a fascinating concept. In Japanese culture, it's called shibumi. Shibumi is grace, a quiet grace, a tranquil grace. Beauty that is not making an effort to become beautiful. It is beautiful by itself. It's perfection that is not seeking to become perfect. Those simple, perfect things, especially if we see it now, a leaf that fell from the tree. It's gorgeous. You look at this. It's amazing. It's amazing. A rough, should I say it, a mug. I have a mug. I had two of them. One of my babysitters broke. I bought it with my wife the first time we came here. It was a Japanese mug. I dafka bought it in Chinatown. And I love this mug because it was very simple. It was black with just white writing on it, and it was very rough. But yet it wasn't smooth, it was rough, but it was so comfortable to hold. That roughness make it comfortable to hold. I still have it today. For example, if you look at a creek, those asymmetrical pebbles in it are beautiful because they have those wonderful shapes inside of them. They carry within themselves tremendous gentleness and refine. In Yiddish, they call it being edel. That refinement, it's superior. Why? Why the imperfects are so beautiful? Because they carry within themselves the true truth. They're very truthful for themselves. So in order to really be able to project yourself out, you need to be truthful with yourself. One time as a kid, I remember they took features from actresses and models that were considered to be the best in. Like for example, they took Elizabeth Taylor eyes and took this one's nose and this one mouth and this one ears and and so on and so forth. And they took the most perfect item from each one, and they put a face together. And I'm gonna tell you, nothing to write home about. Everything was perfect. The eyes were perfect, the nose were perfect, the ears were perfect, but together they created nothing to write home about. The beauty of these people, was that the eyes were perfect, or the nose were perfect, but everything else was not. The beauty comes from, in a way, imperfection, with simple imperfection, what we call. Why? Because beauty is the manifestation of truthfulness, not of external features, from the truth that comes from within. In Japanese culture, the concept of shibumi is not poverty, right? If you go into a room and there's nothing there besides some tatami, mats on the floor and a scroll and one vase with a plant in it, that you might think, these people are poor, they don't have furniture. On the contrary, they have simplicity. That simplicity, we like to show, we think that okay, let's put it this way, there are different types of richness. We think that if I'm going to have, Italian leather sofas and Persian silk rugs and so on and so forth, that's going to be the expression of my wealth. But the true wealth comes from internal wealth. And internal wealth comes from lack of extravaganza, from simplicity. That's how you show inside of you. Is understanding that harmony comes from direct imperfection, from agreeing to be a part of a circle, a part of something. You got to be a part of something. Not the center of things, like we all want to be the center. We have to be a part of something. We all want to be, it's all about us. When somebody is it's all about me. I need to be the center. I need to be the best, and I don't want everybody to recognize that I'm the best. That's a person who is blemished. I'm a part of something. That's why it's important to be a part of a congregation, a part of a community, not the center of it. For example, if you take a teacup, right, with a little crack, it would be much more beautiful from a golden vessel. Yeah, it will cost more a golden vessel, but we're talking about true beauty. Or why? Because that cup of tea carries within itself, it's the story of time, of usage in it. As the Khatam Sofer refers to about an etrog. Some people say that if you hold the etrog too much, and let's say your hands are sweaty, you create those like blemishes or those blotches on the etrog. They're like a little orangey like this. I says that's not the hidur, the beauty of the etrog. The Khatam Sofer says, no, on the contrary, that is the hidur of the etrog. Why is the hidur etrog? Because somebody actually used it. Something that sits down, it doesn't make a difference how expensive it is. If it sits down without usage, you took the soul out of it. It's pointless, it's nothing, it's dead, it's a burden. Give me a worn down, leather jacket. It's much better than I don't know, some kind of a fancy coat or something like this. Or used shoe that you wear so much that it's so comfortable is going to be much more comfortable than any brand shoe you have because of the journey that you went with it. You filled it up with content. You fill it up with substance. That kind of item carries within itself its perfect lacking. When it doesn't have that thing that it's missing, that smell of new car, right? That old car that smells like grease is actually beautiful. And we don't have it like this. We don't develop it because we live in a society that likes to throw away everything. We don't fix anything. We don't appreciate anything. And therefore we create a society that is very, very external and mean and disharmonious. There's no harmony in our society today. Simplicity is the ability to allow beauty to happen by itself. Not to force it, to apply it by itself. As much as a flower does not grow to impress, but it grows because it's alive. The same thing as a flower doesn't, I made a typo here. The flower does not try to make the bees like it. He's there and he's alive. Then the bees come to it. The beauty has to come like this. Fix yourself and then other people will gravitate towards you. Fix yourself. Be alive. You want to know why people are not attracted to you? Because you are not alive. And you carry a whole truck full of stuff that makes you clumsy and unrefined. That's what it is. The Kabbalah, the Sfira, Tiferet, מה זה תפארת?
Beauty?
Tiferet could be beauty, could be pride, could be any of these things, right? Also is referred to as the truth. And the truth is the balance point between chesed and din, right in the middle. In other words, we have to have, you can't be truthful if you're unbalanced. You have to be a very balanced, and that's, by the way, why the symbol of lawyer and so on and so forth is always those scales, right? There's a person in scale, or a blind person, right, holding a scale like this to show you that it has to be balanced. You can't judge by your eyes. That's exactly what it is. But true tiferet, or true truthfulness, is created only when it goes down to malchut, when the beauty fulfills itself with the simplicity of the action. For example, I think you'll get much more, of course, if you marry the right person, if you tell her you love her in a sincere and truthful way, than buying her a diamond ring and try to impress her this way. Tell her, this is why I like you, because I bought you a diamond ring. I think those things are a manifestation of actually downgrading the person, or maybe even a disgrace of the person who's standing in front of us. Because I'm saying you're empty, I can buy you with external stuff, not with true feeling, not with truthfulness. This is a very important point to understand. The spiritual depth also expresses itself in external modesty. And that's why tzniut, modesty, is very important. That's why, according to halakha, it's not good that a woman would wear flashy clothes like red or something like this. Because it's a reflection of who you are. It's like, in Arabic there is an expression, it's called shufuni anas. In other words, watch me people, I'm here. You don't need to do so. Why are you doing that? All these modesty practices that you find in Judaism, you find in halacha, refer and try to direct you towards it. It's not a way to restrict you. On the contrary, it's a if you approach it appropriately, if you have the right mindset to it, this is a direction and tools to help you reach truthfulness and simplicity. As Shlomo HaMelech says, what? Sheker achen v'hevel hayofi. The beauty and external beauty and so on and so forth, it's all a lie, it's a farce. What's the real beauty? What should really be praised? Not those gorgeous hair that you have. Oh my goodness, she has beautiful auburn hair and the thighs and the nails that's nonsense. That's superficial. What's the true beauty? Isha yirat Hashem itit halal. I don't know about you, but you have a woman who covers her hair, beautifully and appropriately. All of a sudden, her face glows. I don't know. It's very weird. Sometimes that external hair takes away from the true beauty of the face because it's external. The beauty and simplicity, or the beauty of simplicity, is being revealed only when we're not trying to make things beautiful. We just show things how they are in its real way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed to us when we stop trying to impress and we allow things to be as they are, the way God created them. And that's the beauty of Shabbat. All week long we're trying to do whatever we can to do is like this. Shabbat, you let go. And that's why Shabbat is referred to as Me'en Ha'olam Haba. It's a part of the world, as an example of the world to come. With God on Shabbat, that's why we don't make fire. We don't create things on Shabbat. Because if I made the fire, I made the fire. And I want to see things how they were before the sin. How God intended them. How they should have been. And that's the beauty of Shabbat. That's why in Shabbat we don't talk about business. We don't talk about anything. We allow things to be the way they are. We spend time with the family. We show what is really important. All those things that we do on Shabbat and all the things that we prevent ourselves or that we don't do on Shabbat, it's all to try to reach that point in time and space. We're basically going back in time to the way things should have been before things start to get corrupted. That's the beauty of Shabbat. And if your attitude towards Shabbat is restrictive, you're missing up the whole entire point. The whole entire point. The Kabbalah talks about what we call tikkun hakelim, fixing the vessels. The divine light is kind of broken up. What do I mean? It's like I use a prism, and now all of a sudden I have those million different colors instead of one specific light. And a person, our job is to really fix those kelim, fix those vessels in which we're giving to us to fix. Each one of us to his own task, in order for them to be able to receive the light in harmony. In harmony, b'shalom. Shalom means shlemut. In harmony, not in peace. In harmony, in the way it is. That's why it says, Hashem yevarech et amo b'shalom. With wholeness and simplicity. A true vessel is a simple vessel. Not the thing that is polished and so on and so forth, but rather the most humble, plain vessel that is out there. That it's open, that it's not full, that you can actually use. A vessel that is not trying to control the light, but the light is created when we remove all this excess, when the vessel allows the light to be itself. And so are we. We should allow, for example, our spouses to be who they are. We should be the vessel that allows us, the instrument, the vessel that allows the other person to become who he really is or who she really is. Not who we want them to be. Because if I marry someone and I try to make them something, I'm preventing their ability to reach truthfulness, and therefore my relationship is not going to be truthful. Most of the time we try to make other people be what we want is because our lacking and our insecurity and our lack of truthfulness. You And us should allow people to try to create the vessel within ourselves to allow the person to be really who he is. To allow you to break the barriers, to break the husks that are around you. And there is a level at which simplicity by itself is also could be gvura, heroism. Because the simple never escape. Never escapes from life. Never escapes the world. But rather it lives within the world with courage. Without getting carried away with confusion and complexity of things. That's why fashion is not for me. Fashion in Hebrew is called ofna. Ofna mishum ofan. It's a circle, like this. Oh, you want to run around. I'm not playing this. I wear what I wear, that's it. I wear it because I need to get dressed, I need to be dressed, but that's what I do. What the fashion is to wear, baggy pants down to my below my waistline with rips like this, very nice, not for me. I don't play this. I want to be simple. I want to be classy. I want to be the way it is. The minimum that I need to do to look dignified. Why? Because I'm walking in front of Hashem, not because what you're going to tell about me. I don't live my life for you. We need to understand that. So whatever other people do, we get carried away with complexity, with confusion, right? As they say, lo nehora ela min chashcha, right? The light comes out only through the darkness. That's what the Zohar says. A great light comes from the darkness. Simplicity is being created only after the person had gone through this. And he says, one second, my life is too complicated. My life is too clumsy, unrefined. Simplicity is when a person is able to realize this. That's when this kind of simplicity is a person that sees, a wise person that saw everything. He saw the complexity of things. He saw the overwhelming amount of stuff, and he says, you know what? I got to go back to my roots. And you see that movement when it comes to the process of teshuvah. I want to come back to the roots. I really come back to my culture. I really want to come back to who I am. And for example, I love the fact that a lot of people wear tchelet today, true tchelet. I really loved it. Why? This shita, that shita, not shita, this, that, the other thing. Leave me alone with this. I see it as a tremendous, beautiful thing that the Jewish people finally are able to seek the truth. Pouring a tchelet is not just because it looks cool. Because I don't know, maybe I don't know, black and yellow would look better. I don't know. Or put the tchelet because it's a significance for us of coming back to the roots of really who we are, to our culture. That's what you see a lot more. Even secular people start to wear tzitzit or wearing a kippah. And that's after we've been so overwhelmed with so much externalism. That's the movement that guides us towards that. Don't run away from who you are. Because you can't. You can't run away from your shadow. Anywhere you go, your shadow will be. You would follow you anywhere you go. You can't run away from it. So you might as well just come back down to the root of it. Come back down to yourself. So is his life. So is everything in life. We're not talking about the simplicity of a person who doesn't know. I don't know. I'm a simpleton. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. We're not talking about this. We're talking about simplicity of a person that already knows. And he said, you know what? That's not for me. I'm not doing this. It's like a tree that right now it's the fall, even though it's pretty wintry cold outside, but right now it's the fall. When does the tree sheds all its leaves? Not because he's tired, because he reached its peak in the summer. That's a big heavy thing and so on and so forth, right? The leaves, you see, so sometimes those mega oak trees or maples or whatever, that in the summer, they cover up a whole entire block, something huge. You have a, oak tree, 80 feet tall, 100 feet tall. That's a huge tree. But after the peak, it drops everything, and then you see the tree the way it is. And I never appreciated, trees in the fall when they're staying barren like this. I used to think as a kid, this is ugly. I want more leaves because I was a kid. I was young. But then one time I look at it and I said, there's tremendous braveness in standing naked as a tree. There's tremendous beauty in that. And I said, I wish I could one time reach that level of being brave enough to really stay, quote unquote, naked, not naked like, in the Speedo naked, but, without all the external masquerade, and really be who I am, just like a tree in the fall. Completely barren like this, and have no problem with it. Now, Rav Nachman Mibreslev used to say that the straight way, derech yeshara, is the most simple way. As they say, a shortcut is the long way. There's no such thing. In the Sfera of Malchut, as we said before, it says, let le migarma klum, there's nothing from itself. That's why it includes everything in it. It is the clearest, most refined mirror out there, because there is no distortion in that mirror. There's no internal distortion of it that comes from having an ego. A simple person does not need anything. He has everything he needs. He looks at it and says, Baruch Hashem, I got everything. I'm okay. When you want more and more and more, that something is missing in you, not external. You try to fulfill the void, the spiritual void, with external stuff, and it doesn't work. It's like trying to put a square peg into a circle. It just doesn't work.
A band-aid on a bullet hole.
Excuse me?
A band-aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah, a band-aid in a bullet. Yeah, whatever. Right? So a person like this that says, Baruch Hashem, I have everything, I don't need anything, he's a whole person. Why? Because he allows the light to go through him, just like a window that does not block the sun, but allows the light of the sun to go through it. And this is the simplicity that we call humbleness and wisdom and wise, and chokhmah or binah. And what it is? To be clear without losing your shape. Not to disappear and hide under the carpet and making voices like a carpet. No, we're not talking about this. I'm here, I'm present, but I'm not drawing too much attention. But I'm not losing who I am and what I am. I'm staying loyal to myself. Almost like Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim. They did not lose their identity. They didn't change their names, they didn't change their clothing, they didn't change the language. Staying truthful. The fight against the Jews all over the world is not just because the Jews are only 15 million people in the whole entire, whatever billions of people there in the world. However, the Jews represent a truthful way, and the fight is against the truth. We don't want truth in our life. In other words, we don't want the Jews around. And when we says, Lo beruach Hashem velo berash velo be'esh, right? Not in big noises. And after the fire, right? What was it called? The mamad daka. There was silent after the big shebang, the big 4th of July spectacular on the mountains and so on and so forth, right? It was quiet. Why it was quiet? As it says also, if you see the Lo Beruach Hashem, that's in Melachim Aleph, right? Yutet, that called the Mamad Daka is what we call it, let's call it this way, the Shibumi of Kabbalah, right? The beautiful white, which is quiet, humbleness, simplicity, that there is no side of showing off or kind of pretend in it. It was the truth. That's why many people, when they go on a date, they have a problem with being quiet. Because when being quiet, they feel that they are very vulnerable. That's why people talk and talk and talk and talk and talk all the time. And you go to somebody and say, okay, what happened today? I don't really know. What do you mean you don't know? You didn't talk? Yeah, we were talking all the time. What did you talk about? I don't know. It's amazing, isn't it? You created noise so you won't feel vulnerable to expose yourself and really who you are. And the Ein Sof dwells in that place, in that quietness, in this humble quietness that it is. True chokhmah, right? True wisdom comes from that, where light and shadow live in harmony. And a person who listens very carefully to that space, to that point, to the truthfulness, to the true self of himself, reveals that the whole entire world, the whole entire universe, the whole entire creation is one simple song of praise unto God. Called the Shir Hallel. A song that there's no effort in it, a song that everything in it, whether it's a tree or stone or breath, is an expression of God's light. Okay. So simplicity is aesthetic language of the truth, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals himself only when a person becomes simple, and a person who looks to become a big shot and so on and so forth becomes clear to the light of God. And when a person lives in true simplicity, not because he doesn't have much, but rather because of awareness that, that's what needs to be, becomes quiet, becomes refined. He's open to the moment and allows the light, the Ein Sof light, to shine through it, through his humble shape, and then the secret is going to come up. And I hope all of us to be able to reach that, so the light of God would shine on us and the whole entire world, the whole entire creation. Amen. K'nei Ratzon.